Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumtown Podcast, episode 201. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving it a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of CC's Daiquiris. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by her story. Let's chop it up with Candy Capel. Candy, how's it going?
It's going fine. Thank you so much for asking.
Yes, ma'am. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to speak with me a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. I'm a big fan of Gumtown, and I think that this podcast is just awesome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. First things first, before we talk business and all the great things you got going on over at CC's Daiquiris, let's get to know the woman behind the brand. Originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, what was your bringing like in the 504?
Well, the 504 certainly is unique. I think anybody who's ever been there would know that. And my upbringing was certainly unique because I was born there, but my father was in the service. And so after my birth, we traveled from base to base and overseas for a while. But anytime we were stateside, we spent summers in New Orleans. And then when I graduated from high school, I returned to New Orleans and went to Tulane University. I graduated from Tulane, spent some time there, and I've been back and forth ever since. It's always going to be my home. There's no place like New Orleans. It's a very unique place, and I just love every inch of it.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome stuff. And yes, New Orleans is definitely a beautiful place, beautiful people, great food, some of the best food I've ever had in my life. And I'm sure you would probably agree, it's some of the best food you could find in the States.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, food is a religion in New Orleans, and so yeah, we live to eat, live to cook. We love to have good times. Everything is centered around food, and you have so many unique dishes. And so it's just a great place to really treat your palate to a lot of different flavors and a lot of different styles of cooking. And there's nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like New Orleans food. If there's one thing that you know that you miss, it's the food when you're away.
Yes, ma'am. I believe it. And just hearing you talk about your dad serving in the military, I definitely appreciate his service in our military.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And my all of my mother's family is from New Orleans. And so my grandfather was one of the first Black independent contractors in New Orleans. Um, Most of his offspring, most of the sisters became school teachers in the systems in New Orleans. And my mother had two brothers. One drowned, unfortunately, in a whirlpool in one of the canals. And the other brother became a butcher. He went into the service first and then became a butcher eventually. But the rest were in education. So again, they gave us a great platform, a great foundation from which to grow and learn. And we've been fortunate to be able to take those lessons with us and make something of whatever we intended to do, whatever we just set our minds to. That's what we've ended up doing.
Yes, ma'am. Good stuff. And just hearing you talk about just that foundation and growing up in New Orleans and everybody having their given professions, it sounds like you definitely had a great village growing up.
Absolutely, absolutely. A great background. As I said, my grandfather was one of the first Black independent contractors. My father was a physician. He was drafted into the military, so he served 20 years as a military physician. He did tours of duty in both Vietnam and Korea. And then when he came out of the service, which he did not want to, but he retired as a full bird colonel. He didn't stay because they were not going to give him his wings and make him general at that time. Even then, you know, a lot of politics, a lot of racism going on, unfortunately, in the service. And so he decided to go ahead and retire. But then he became chief of staff, first assistant chief of staff, then chief of staff at the VA in Tuskegee. So he just found a different way to serve his country. And he did that for another 20 years. So he actually retired twice. And my mother had been a school teacher when they first met. But once my dad went into the service, she was a stay-at-home mom, but that did not belie all of the education she poured into us, no matter where we lived. And we ended up living all over the United States as well as in Germany for 4 years. We spent 4 years there. And so I think that our road education was one of the most important aspects of our growing tough because we came to find out that people are basically the same no matter where you go. And the experiences that you can gather from being exposed to other cultures is invaluable. It tends to serve you well for the rest of your life.
Yes, ma'am. That's so amazing. You got a chance to travel and move around with your dad serving in our country, and like you said, just getting exposed to different cultures and getting a chance to just see things outside of New Orleans. And I mean, I think that is very key for everyone to get outside of their hometown and travel a little bit and experience new things and new places, new people, new things. So, in all of the well, we can speak on Germany. So in your time of staying in Germany, do you recall any what was some cultural differences you noticed in Germany from New Orleans?
Well, certainly, again, you're talking about a different type of food. The Germans were very welcoming, especially to our families. So we had a great time. We had a lot of good experiences, and my parents were very, again, very high on exposing us to other cultures. So even though we were very young at the time, in I was in elementary school, but they did take us to Sweden, to Switzerland, to Denmark, and to Austria. So we weren't just confined to Germany, and we had again an opportunity to experience such a lot of different cultures. The Danish and Copenhagen and going to Austria and going to different parts of Germany. Seeing and we lived in Nuremberg, where the historic Nuremberg trials were held. So we had a lot of exposure to history and to culture. And I think again, just being able to see different people, how they live, how they interact, what they eat, how they dress, different climates. It's something that you really, I would really advocate for. Get out of your comfort zone, get out of your little hometown, and make sure that you do travel, even if it's over to the next county or to the next state. Take your time and get out and get to know people, and don't assume that you have a lock on what culture means worldwide or internationally. Get out and see it and feel it and hear it and touch it for yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's spot on, and I agree 100%. So you end up going back to New Orleans and attending and graduating from Tulane University. How was that college experience for you at Tulane?
Oh, it was great. It was great. There's no better city to go to college in than in New Orleans. And so Tulane was awesome, provided me with an excellent education. And the entire time you're in school, you have an opportunity to enjoy, Mardi Gras and the Jazz Fest. And of course, every weekend there's some sort of festival somewhere. Learn second line and know which bars are the friendliest. And just it was just an awesome place to be while you're being educated. Unfortunately, Katrina had a deep effect and deep impact on the city of New Orleans. And there are some places that have never returned since Katrina. I think that the face of the city is a bit different than what it was before Katrina. But we're resilient, and New Orleans survived and is continuing to thrive again. And so it's just, again, a city that's just so very, very different. You're just so comfortable. It really is a city that makes you comfortable and makes you want to come back time and time again.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. It's definitely a beautiful city, beautiful place. Like you said, the food is bar none, top tier, and that's great. You got a chance to go back home and attend college and graduate from college, and that's good stuff. So let's talk about present day. I know you're the founder and owner of CC's Daiquiris, and you currently reside in Montgomery. So what exactly brought you to Montgomery, Candy?
Well, my parents, of course, were getting older, and I think that my siblings and I saw the necessity for us to step in and make sure that all of their business was taken care of, and they were well cared for, as they aged. Also, I had spent some time in California. Uh, my older daughter was a child actress, so she did some of that in LA for a while. But it was time for her to graduate from high school, and I decided, it was time for us to come back to Alabama. Because she had a PAC plan, a college tuition plan here in Alabama. And so she decided to come back and ended up attending UAB. And it just coincided again with the fact that, my parents were aging. And so I wanted to be nearby to be able to provide any assistance I could. And just as we were getting ready to leave, that's when 9/11 occurred. And so you're seeing what's happening on the East Coast, and we're sitting on the West Coast. And the LA airport is locked down. I was working in, I think, a 54-story there were twin buildings that were owned by PricewaterhouseCoopers, for whom I was working at that time. And so to see manned helicopters fly by your office windows, that was a really unique sight. And a little frightening at the time. So I had already begun all the trials of packing up and getting my girls ready to move back to Alabama. And I just said, Lord, if you just let me get out of here before the other shoe drops, because I was convinced that LA was next, I would just be ever so grateful. And we ended up making that transition just fine and came on back to Alabama. And I've remained here since then. And did some other things when I first came back. I eventually went back to Alabama State University. I had worked there before running the jazz radio station, WVAS. And so eventually I was able to go back to the station and work as a programmer for a while, and then became the station manager. And that's what I was doing when I retired from Alabama State University, just as I was opening CC's Daiquiris. So it's been a long road, but it's been an interesting road. Never a dull moment.
Wow, yes, man. What a journey! Just hearing you talk about, like, just what an amazing life, an amazing journey that you lived and got a chance to live on the West Coast. Got a chance to travel with your dad in the military, and I mean that's just so amazing. So you definitely had a chance to be exposed to a lot of different cultures and a lot of different things. And I mean, I think that's what life is all about, just those experiences.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I actually just came back. For the last 3 years, I've tried to do something, really interesting for my birthday, actually longer than that. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I went to Paris by myself. I had a certificate from a good friend for a hotel in Paris, and I said, before this expires, let me use this. So I booked a trip I'm sorry, not New Orleans, to Paris, and spent a few days there and had just had a great time, got to see some of the city, some of the iconic spots, of course, like the Eiffel Tower and Arc de Triomphe. I had a chance to go to the Louvre Museum, and you learn so much there, especially if you do a guided tour, and then had a dinner cruise down the Seine River, able to see a lot of the buildings they use as backdrops for the Olympics, and to see the Eiffel Tower lit up at night. And it was just a great experience. And again, people were like, well, you're going by yourself. I said, why not? I've been traveling my entire life. This is one more trip to me. So it was a little challenging. It always is if you're taking off by yourself, but you can do anything that you set your mind to. That's really my belief. You really can do anything that you want to do in life.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's spot on. I agree wholeheartedly. So, when you initially moved back to Alabama and moved to Montgomery, so was there anything about the city? Was there any culture shock moving to Montgomery?
Was there any, I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, my apologies. So you initially came back to Alabama. So when you initially moved to Montgomery, did you experience any culture shock from any other places you had been? So like, how was your initial perception of Montgomery when you first moved here?
I think it was a little slower than I expected.
Hmm.
I think I expected to be caught up more. But Montgomery was still a little bit behind. And so I found it interesting because when I first came back, there was no life downtown. When people left work at night, those sidewalks rolled up. And there was really nothing going on. And so you have to give the city credit and the chamber and everybody who's put their efforts into it to really rebuild the downtown. And so a lot was happening at that time. Unfortunately, I think COVID set that back somewhat, but it's thriving again and growing again. And I think that anything we can do to continue to bring people downtown, especially our locals, because it's nice to have visitors and tourists, but as a small business person, you have to rely certainly on your local economy and your local foot traffic. And so we're happy to be a part of that. Um, we think in that effort to make downtown fun and to make it interesting and to give people something to do when they do come downtown.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Downtown definitely has come a long way. I mean, it used to be a ghost town down there. And I remember because I'm born and raised in Montgomery. I remember when they bought the Renaissance Hotel.
Yes.
That's when things started to shift a little bit once we got the hotel downtown. And that's great what you got going on over at CC's Daiquiris. And that's what I want. And the actually transitions perfectly into my next portion. So, whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, I like to talk about three things: the aha moment, action, and audacity. Take us back to your aha moment when you had the idea to create CC's Daiquiri and bring that experience to Montgomery.
Well, I worked for the city for a while in community development. I was actually running the community development department for the city of Montgomery for a while. And I was paying attention to what they were doing, again, in terms of development downtown and other parts of the city. And when they announced that they would be doing they wanted to do the concept of the alley, and kind of bring that Bourbon Street presence back, just kind of hanging out and walking through different places and getting the chance to enjoy yourself in different venues. And I thought, you know what? That's Bourbon Street. So that's a great concept because we don't have anything here that really reminds me of New Orleans. And I think that would be a great vibe to bring to the city. And people will say, well, the Lord doesn't encourage you with alcohol, but I'm telling you that it was a thought that came to me in the middle of the night. And it was like, why don't you establish your own business that's reminiscent of what you know? And really, that's how CC's came about. I named it after my parents. Most people think it's after me, Candy Capel, but it really is my parents. My mother's name was Carrie, and my father's last name was Capel, of course, but they called him Cappy. And so I called it CC's Daiquiris as a tribute to them. And wrote a business plan with the help of the Small Business Development Center at the University of West Alabama in Livingston, and found the bank to finance it. And actually, that's how initially it was put together. That's how it was born.
Wow, that's amazing. Just hearing your aha moment. Like you said, you just paying attention to what was coming to Montgomery and just being proactive, getting the business plan started and naming the company after your parents to pay homage to them. That's amazing because I definitely thought it was named after you and you definitely educated me there. Yes, ma'am. So I definitely appreciate that. And just from that time you had that initial aha moment, the action portion, how long did it take you to get the LLC and the alcohol license and everything situated? How long did that process take for you?
It probably took about a year or so, maybe a little bit less. As I said, the business plan, these small business development centers, whether they're at Alabama State University or other universities in the state, are so helpful. There's either no charge or a minimal charge for whatever it is that you're trying to do in terms of putting together the understanding what a business plan is, what the elements should be, how you go about asking for funding. And so that was really invaluable, the information that I gathered from them. And then at the time, there was the minority owned bank, which actually was established in New Orleans, coincidentally, which was Liberty Bank. And so, I went to at a reception, I think, when they were first opening their bank. And it turned out that my grandfather and the owner of the bank had actually known each other at some time. So I had a conversation and had an opportunity to introduce myself to some of the officers at the bank, and out of that was able to do a presentation and uh, secure the funding, the initial funding for the enterprise. Um, and so I started looking around for space. I knew that the city of Montgomery had a small business incubator at that time. It was located now downtown where the Renaissance Hotel is, where they now have the streetcar parked. And I think you buy the tickets for the Harriet Two Riverboat down there. So that's originally where we were located. There was a building there that was a small business incubator. And so the people that I already knew from the city, I went and talked to them and said, hey, I'm interested in coming in there as an entrepreneur, and worked that out with them. And then began looking for furnishings, machines, all of the pieces that we would need. I went to Alabama State University's School of Business. I think it's the Percy Vaughan School of Business now, if I'm not mistaken. And And that's how I found my manager. She had graduated, I think, almost at the top of her class. So this was the first manager that I had, and brought her on, and together we built the initial CC's Daiquiris, and opened up, and we were doing before we knew it, we were doing hand over fist business again because there's not a business like it. It was a lot of fun. We had the open container ordinance in place so people could take their cups or their souvenir cups and walk around downtown Montgomery. And we were doing very, very, very well. And then politics entered the picture. And I think some jealousy and some hatred, you're always going to have haters. But I think it was more political than anything else. And so the entertainment ordinance was suspended. And we were not wise enough at that time to pivot as quickly as we needed to. And so we ended up temporarily closing down the business. And it's only in the last, since mid 2023, that I was able to find a couple of investors in the persons of Charles Lewis and Orlando Cannon. And together we put together our own financing and started the business back up. And so we are still there, still doing well, planning to do even better, and learning as we go. And again, very intently watching what the city has for as far as plans for the downtown area, whether it's events or conventions or just ways of seducing our local population to come down to the downtown area and enjoy themselves in any number of ways.
Wow, and that's amazing. And I definitely remember when the news hit that you all was going to have to close your doors. And I just want to commend you on your resilience and just being willing to stick in there and find those business partners and make the necessary pivot and reopen your doors that because when that news hit, it was definitely a shock to the city. And I remember a few people on Facebook talking about it, like, oh wow, CC Daiquiri then shut down, and yeah, the politics get involved and things can get a little interesting when those politics get involved. But definitely got to commend you for your perseverance and your resilience to reopen your doors.
Thank you. And those are the words I always use. I think people, when they come and talk to us, I always talk about perseverance and resilience, and having to have those, and also connections, because every step of the way it's been about connections, who we know, who I'm able to go talk to, how I'm able to meet this person or bring this person along or have them work with us and either give us ideas or give us opportunities to involve CCs in a number of ventures. And so, probably the most recent venture was that we received one of the seed grants from the city of Montgomery in the amount of $5,000. And when we were asked what we wanted to use the grant for, it was really to expand our offerings. And we set up a partnership or a collaboration, not partnership, but a collaboration with Can a Brother Get a Slice, which, if makes some of the best pizza in Montgomery.
Right.
And so we are now offering a limited menu of pizzas. We're just getting it off the ground, just still tweaking it, tweaking the taste and the whole process. But we're just getting that off the ground. And we're just so happy to do that, because I think anytime that we can feed into each other and collaborate with each other and really root for the success of each other, that's a win-win. There's no other way to look at that. That's just a win-win. And our patrons win because they get great taste and great drinks in the same place.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Collaboration is key. Kind of brother get a slice has an amazing pizza. Said Sanders, he's a good brother.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And he has really worked with us and come up with samples and tweaked it as we've gone along, and really showed us how we can manage the process. And so we're really, really grateful to him and thankful that he even decided to take a chance with us and to enter into this collaboration. So as I said, I believe it's going to be a win-win for all of us, and we're just happy with the results so far. And just again, happy to be there, have our doors open, and to have people walk in and know that they're going to enjoy themselves and they won't leave disappointed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And definitely was happy to hear the news that you all were returning and had the grand reopening. And I had a chance to come down to the new location next to Solar Terrace is nice and beautiful in there. It's clean. The temperature always right, and I mean it's just an amazing experience every time I do visit the business. So glad to have you back in the city.
Thank you so much, and we're happy to be here. We don't plan to go anywhere, and we really want to thank everybody in Montgomery for their support. Through the up days, the down days, anything that's going on. We've always had our loyal core of supporters and patrons, and we're grateful for that. We don't take that for granted.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So, would you being a full-time business owner, full-time entrepreneur, and just having your hands in the business and running things and all the other business ventures that I'm sure you're working on, like what do you do to decompress and get away from it all? Because I know you got a lot on your plate.
I think I like to, I like to work and do the work and try to leave most of the work there. Of course, running a business is a 24-hour proposition. You're always thinking you've got this matter you've got to take off, you've got supplies, you've got ordering to do, you got inventory, you have bills to pay. There's always something on your plate. But I think that any time when you walk in your own house that you can wind down and just enjoy yourself, enjoy your own company, that's great. I love to read. Um, there are a couple of every once in a while I get hooked on some show or some special, and so I really get into that. And of course, I have family. I have a brother and a sister in Montgomery, and then a sister in Atlanta. I'm actually in Atlanta tonight with my sister, my younger sister. And so being able to spend time with family, not just holidays, but anytime you can spend time with family, I think that also enables you to kind of decompress and sit down, just laugh and joke and hang out with people that you know that you can trust and who have your back. So that's a couple of the ways that I do it.
Yes, ma'am, that's awesome stuff. Spending that family time and reading, and it's great just to have those escapes because otherwise, if you don't, you're just always in the hustle and bustle, and you can possibly burn yourself out. So I'm glad that you do have those ways to decompress.
Absolutely, I agree. And life is too short. Life is really too short to waste it. It's too short for the dumb stuff, as my cousin used to say, and that's cleaning up his saying, really. But it's just too short for all of that. So, do what you can in the day. Try to treat people the way that you would want to be treated, and look forward to each day and an opportunity, again, to get it right each and every day. So I think that's what you have to depend on. And no matter what happened today, tomorrow's another one. I've got to get up, start all over again, figure out what the plan is for the day, and operate with an optimistic attitude, expecting the best, and being realistic, but also having to expect the best and not just looking at a doomsday scenario every day and say, oh, woe is me. Why is all of this happening to me?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's a great mindset and perspective to have. So you've done great things with CC's Daiquiris and all your other business endeavors, and I'm sure great things are coming down the pipeline for you. So I got to ask you, in terms of vision, what are some of your short-term and long-term goals in this entrepreneurial space you feel comfortable sharing?
Yes, I think short-term goals are certainly to increase our revenue, to really get it up to a level which makes us comfortable and gives us that ease and less stress in terms of meeting what our obligations are each day, each week, and each month. So we certainly want to increase that revenue level. I think long term, think if there were a way to package some of what we do, that would be great, and put it out there into the market. I think also that if we were able to open one or two other locations, depending on what the environment would be, I think that would be a great goal. But we just have to just take it a step at a time and figure out what's next and what's the best time to make that next step. Don't rush it. Don't do it just because we're just feeling that itch and we think we've got to do it right this minute. But really be strategic and really figure out what's next, what literally is next, what's the next step, and what makes sense, and what the timing of it is. Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am. That makes perfect sense, and those are great goals, both short-term and long-term. And I have no doubt you'll put in the work and make them come to fruition.
Well, I plan to. You've got to, when you own it, when it's yours, when it has your name on it, you've got to do what you need to do to run it right, run it correctly every day, Again, treat your customers well and expect that people will have respect for what you do, respect for your business, respect for your accomplishments, and they'll continue to cheer you on and support you each and every day.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. As we wrap up the podcast, I want to ask $1 million question. So I started this podcast because I wanted to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery. Whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work, you residing here, operating in business in the city of Montgomery, Candy, I got to ask you, what do you appreciate the most about the city of Montgomery?
I appreciate the history. This is one place where you can see where we've been, how far we've come, and all the possibilities that are ahead if we approach them correctly. So the sky's the limit, I really believe, when it comes to Montgomery. We are not the biggest city in the state, but we are the capital city. And I think that although we do have some catching up to do with other large cities in Montgomery, I think that we're doing it in the right way. We have the right approach. And I think that it provides a lot of opportunity for those who have an idea that they're willing to stand behind, work hard for, and see through to its completion.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Those powerful words, and I definitely agree. Candy, how can the people connect with you? What are your social media handles and website?
Well, our website is cc'sdaiquiris.com. Um, as far as our Facebook, we do have a Facebook page. We're on TikTok. We're also on IG. So any of those are a good way to reach out to us. And then coming by the shop, coming by to say hello, tell us if you like the experience, send us your words, your reviews, your videos. We're happy to post those. If you've had a great time at CC's, we're happy to do that. And we're looking forward to a great summer because now that the warmer months are upon us, uh, we've opened Wednesday again now. We had stopped doing that for a while, but we're open again on Wednesdays, and we're also open until 2 a.m. on the weekends. So people who think, again, that the sidewalks are rolling up at midnight, that's not necessarily the case. There's still things going on in downtown Montgomery. So join us, come on out and have some fun.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And of course, I'll put all of that information in the description of the episode. Hey, Candy, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug. I really appreciate it. And again, shout out to Gumptown. Great work in every facet of media. I've always been very impressed and very grateful for the support. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, allowing me to share just a little bit of what I think about.
Yes, ma'am. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumptown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you.